Okay, now we are going to look at the agency theory. The agency theory, that is our next point. Agency theory, of course, this is topic number 1, the overview of financial management. And agency theory, we're going to look at the concept, the conflict, and the resolution. So under agency theory, we are going to look at the concept. We're going to look at agency theory. Agency theory. Under which we look at concept, conflict, and resolution. How do they resolve? How do they resolve the conflict? So concept of agency theory, the conflict between the relationship, the two relationships, and the resolution. So we start by saying that it is a theory that explains the relationship between agency theory. It is the theory that explain it is the theory that explain relationship, is the theory that explain relationship between stakeholder in the organization, between stakeholders in the organization. Class, we say that the owners of the business, the owner or the shareholder, they are not able to run their business alone due to several reasons. Of course, we shall be looking at all those reasons. And therefore, they tend to appoint a team of managers to run the business on their behalf. In that scenario, the shareholder is the principal and the manager will be the agent. Between that relationship between the shareholder and the manager, there arises some conflict due to maybe self-interest, due to maybe absent, maybe the shareholder are not present always. There will arise some conflict. So we shall be looking at how the conflict arises and then how to solve the conflict. That's all about the agency. And since we shall be looking at several or various stakeholders, remember we have government, we have suppliers, we have the debtors, those stakeholders that are available, there arises conflict, and that conflict have its resolve. We can see how to resolve the conflict. So we have types of agency relationship. Types of agency relationship. So the first one, maybe you can put the first one here. The first one here. It is shareholders and management. And management. So when you talk of management, these are managers. Shareholder and management. Number 2, shareholder and creditors. Shareholders and creditors. Remember, creditors are the provider of long-term fund. These are providers of long-term funds. Providers of long-term funds. Then number 3, we have shareholder and government. Shareholders and government. We have shareholder and government. Then we have the next one, number 4, which is shareholder and auditors. Shareholders and auditors. Number 5, headquarter office and branch. Headquarter office. Headquarter office and branch. And last but not the least, class, number 6, is manager and employees. Managers and employee. So class, I want you to just indicate what each stands for. What each stands for. For example, when you talk about shareholder and management, who is the principal? Who is the agent? Kindly. When you talk about the shareholder and the management, who is the principal? Who is the agent? That's what I want us to look at. Who is the principal? Who is the agent? The first thing is to identify that. When we talk about shareholder and management, shareholder is the principal. Asante. Yes, shareholder is the principal. Automatically, the management is the what? Is the person to take care or to carry out activity on behalf of the owner. Remember the owner. Shareholder and the creditors. Who will be the principal? Who will be the agent? Remember, you look at a wider age, and you need to understand who is giving what and how. So between the shareholder and the creditor, who is the principal? Who is the agent? Creditor is the principal. You guys are good. Exactly. Yes. Creditor, remember, these are the providers of capital, of long-term debt or funds. And therefore, who is to take care of that debt? Who is to make sure that that debt is managed well? It is the shareholder. Hawa ndio wameborrow. So this is the principal. These are the custodian of the debt. Then we go to the shareholder and the government. Shareholder and the government. Who is the principal? Who is the agent? Shareholder and the government. Now the principal and the government. Nani principal, nani agent? Shareholder and the government. Haya, wacha tuone hapo. Shareholder and the government. Shareholder and the government. Hapo huwa inachanga kidogo. So the government in this case is the principal. So government is in this case is the principal. Yes. Government. You people, I like that. Government is the principal. What about headquarter, office, and branch? What about headquarter, office, and branch? That's good. And then we have manager and employees. So employee will be the agent. Employee will be acting as the agent. Employee will be acting as the agent. And that is very good. Very good. Number 4. Tumeruka. Shareholder and the shareholder and the auditor. Shareholder and the auditor. Yes, number 4. Tumeruka hapo. Shareholder and the auditor. Gang. But both manager and the employees are all, yes, they are all employed, but who is above who? Umeshika? Who is above who? And lazima uangalie in that perspective. Who is above who? Who is leading the other? Who is the, or who is acting on behalf of the other? Unajua, sijui kama ushai note. Ukiangalia kwa kampuni fulani ama industry, hao watu wana direct, au managers hao wana direct. Watu wenye kufanya kazi ni hawa. Okay, huyu ni employee pia, lakini there is the way they control other employees. They control other employees. Hawa ni kudirect, fanya hivi. So in that case, they become what? The agent. So we look at it in that angle. Haya, shareholder and the auditor. Naambiwa kwamba auditors are the who? Are the principal. Shareholder and the auditor. Kwani who is taking care of what's happening? Who is responsible for auditor are the agents. Tatu iangalie vizuri. Kwani auditor kazi yao ni kupana. Auditor accounts. Who is to be blamed if something wrong happened? Okay, we shall look at it. We shall see. Shareholder ni owner, the principal. Okay, now that is it. Let's at least try to elaborate. The first one, shareholder and the management. To guide the shareholder, they audit the account to guide the shareholder. Okay. Audit the account to guide the shareholder. Audit the account. So let's look at the first one, the shareholder and the management. So have a subheading, shareholder and the management. And say this: shareholder are the owners of the firm. We're trying to give a story here. Shareholders are the owner of the firm. Being the owner of the firm, they cannot manage the firm because why can't they manage the firm? Sasa, and since you guys, mimi niliwaambia kwamba there's no specific answer to theory. It depends on how you state it. Theory. Never leave a blank space when you are answering a theory question. Why? Because there's no specific, that you just think of the question and then you say that shareholders and the managers. So akikuletea managers ama management, hiyo ni same. So these are the owner and they cannot manage the firm because of one. Can you give me reason number one of why the shareholder are not able to manage the firm? Yes, they are the owner of the firm. Why? Think about it and give me. Nasimu umepatana nayo kwa mtihani. Umepatiwa hii. In fact, tutaanza tu hivyo. They are busy. Yes. Conflict of interest. Haya, watakuwa na conflict of interest. Nipata hizo point tu. They are too many. Yes. I like this. Lack of experience. You guys, you need to be doing this exam. Can you bring those points? Lack of experience. They lack expertise. They don't have skills to run the business. See? They are widely spread. Work on different places. You see, there are people coming from different places. They are too busy doing other things. Remember, when you have a farm, you have money. That means you need to have employees in that farm doing other things. Probably, maybe even you are employed somewhere else. Bring those points. Those are the points And then kwa mtihani ukiandika kashort hivyo, elaborate kidogo. Lack of experience, widely spread. So the reason why the shareholder are not able to run the firm is, number one, they may be too many to run a single firm. They may be too many to run a single firm. That's a point. Number two, they may not have technical skills. They may not have technical skills and expertise to run the farm. Yeah. Yani wameweka lakini they don't have the technicals. They need expertise. They need professionals. Some of those people who own big farms, they even don't know things to do with their accounts. So they need accountants. And then that work is huge. They'd be overwhelmed. Hawezi peke yao. Hawezi. Number three, they are geographically displaced and may not have time. Sasa, mi nataka tu mniambie ukweli, because those are the point. Nataka tu mniambie ukweli. Whatever that our students stated here, or whatever that you stated there, are they in line with what we have here? Are they in line? Just be frank with me. Are they in line? Are they in line? Yani 100%. They are in line with what we have stated 100%. So what does that tells you? At any given point, theory question, can you think about it? Anauliza nini? Nini? What are we relating? What are we relating? What are we relating? Mtu mwenye biashara na sasa huyu mwenye analeta. Pona anamleta. What are some of the reasons why? That is the way you just think outside the box kidogo, and then you give your answer. We continue with the next point. Shareholders therefore appoint the directors to run the firm on their behalf. They appoint the directors, appoint the directors to run the firm on their behalf. Run the firm on their behalf. Firm on their behalf. They appoint the directors to run the firm on their behalf. So in this case, shareholder are the principal and the managers are the agent. So the conflict that may arise between the agent and the principal is called agency problem. So what are some of the things that you think may bring conflict? What are some of the things that you think may bring conflict between the shareholder and the manager? What are some of the things? Kuna mtu alitaja moja hapo when we were looking at the reasons why. Niliona moja. Your conflict of interest is one of the points. One of the ways that may bring conflict. Your conflict of interest. Whereby now we find that managers ndio wameachwa. They tend to do things that favor them. Sometimes they even fail to do work as required. There are those managers who wake up very early in the morning. Before even they report to work, they pass somewhere else. So kazini, they'll come at maybe 9. Then that is not the end. In the office, they have somewhere to hang their coat or jacket. They hang it. They sit down like 2 minutes. They open up their computer, doing nothing. It's on now. They wake up and go out. They'll be back at around lunchtime or maybe 2. Now you see, those are some of the things that will bring conflict, because what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Have you ever seen some of those people who work like that? Yani hiyo kiti ni kama iko na misumari. They don't want to stay there doing something constructive. Have you ever seen such people? Such people. So in such an environment, a conflict will always arise. Yeah, there are those people. Wako tu, lakini at the end of the day, they are earning. So, hawajali. They don't worry, or they don't care. They don't care. So there are things that lead to that. Maybe amekuwa employed permanently, right? EPP, permanent and pensionable. Unajua sasa, hiyo yeye anajua kwamba hakuna kitu utafanya. Si mimi niko hapa hadi nilitae. Compensations, disputes, yes. Sasa umeweza kutaja. Those are some of the points that will lead to what? Will lead to conflict. Like the one Kaponi is telling us there, performance expectation. Yes, we want you to perform well, but you're not. Vile to expect you're not doing that. Then compensations, dispute, kama hizo. And such. So those are some of the things that will cause conflict. So let's look at ways to solve of solving conflict between shareholder and the management. Ways of solving conflict. Ways of solving conflict. Ways of solving conflict between shareholders and the managers. How do we solve those conflicts? Because it's solvable. We can solve them. Number 1, introduction of employee share ownership scheme. Introduction of employee share ownership scheme. Hiyo itasaidia, or plan. Number 2, exercising contractual risk employment. Exercising contractual risk employment. Now class, when you climb the ladder, to the high end, I know you'll be great people in this country. When you get there, always remember where you have come from. Why? You may be in a position whereby you are the director of the public service. There are some of the things that you may do that may affect your community, your country, and the society at large. Even if you have power, stop some things. There are some things that you're not supposed to even to let them come out of your mouth. There'll be no employment. There'll be no we shall stop recruiting people. And how? Because you are the public servant representative, and you start telling the others that utasimamisha. How? So once we get there, let's always remember, let's always maintain and have what? The humanity heart in us. Humanity. So exercising contractual least employment. This means at least we remove these things over permanent and pensionable, because the permanent and pensionable make people to live in a comfort zone. Make people to live in a comfort zone. Make people to live in a comfort zone. So we give them a job in a contractual form. Then number three, introduction of a performance-based reward. Introduction of performance-based reward. Itaso pia performance-based reward. You performed well. Yes, there is some reward as a motivation. Reward which will force them to work hard and act as a motivation. Act as a motivation. Then number 4, you can use threat of firing. You can scare them first of all. Tell them that you're going to fire them. Direct intervention by shareholder. Now the shareholder can have a direct intervention. Kuja nakwambia sasa hapa mambo haiendi mzuri. Direct intervention by shareholder is number 5. Direct intervention by shareholders. Direct intervention by shareholder. Direct intervention by shareholders. Direct intervention by shareholder. So for this to happen, the shareholder will incur some cost. So we have incurring agency costs. Maybe you can have this incurring agency cost. Zima we incur agency cost kama uinstall CCTVs, hizo zitasaidia. Unaweza install CCTV, unaweza cost of external audit, cost of incentives, unaweza restructure, so cost of restructuring, opportunity cost, executive share option plan, that's another one. And I think those are some of the points there. Yeah, those are some of the points that we have. Then we have number 2. Number 2 is agency relationship between shareholder and the creditor. Agency relationship between shareholder and creditor. Shareholders and creditors. Creditor tulisema ni lenders. Agency relationship between the shareholders and creditors. Wamewapatia pesa fanya kazi, wamewakopesha pesa fanya kazi. So creditors, bond or debenture holder, they are debenture holders, are provider or raiders of long-term debt capital. Are providers or lenders of long-term debt capital. Long-term debt capital. They are the provider or lenders of long-term debt capital. In raising firm, NB, in raising capital, in raising capital, the borrowing firm will always issue, the borrowing firm will always issue, the borrowing firm will always issue the financial security in form of securities in form of debenture, ordinary share, preference share, and preference share. In this case, the bond holder are the principal. The bond holder are the principal. The bond holder are the principals, and the shareholder are the agents. You people got it correct. And the shareholders are the agent. The shareholder are the agents. So the agents are to make sure that the debt capital borrowed is utilized well. Make sure that the debt capital borrowed, is utilized well. So they are the agents. So how do we get the wealth of the borrower or the bond holder? How is the wealth of the bond holder computed? I can see there is a class here that is spoofing. Don't know what will happen. The same account. There is a class that is set in the same account. I don't know whether this person is going to log out this. Let me check and make sure that we get the person. Okay, so wealth of the bond holder. wealth of the bondholder. So don't be surprised when our class stops. Don't be surprised. I will just create another link and share. Wealth of bondholder. How do we get the wealth of the bondholder? It's given by the market value of the bond. Market value of the bond times market value of the bond times number of bond held. Number of bond held. Market value of the bond times number of bond held. Market value of the bond times number of bond held. So, class, when do you think the conflict will arise between the creditor and the shareholder? What are some of the things that will cause the conflict to arise between the shareholder and the creditor? Between the shareholder and the creditor, and then we see ways to solve those conflicts, ways to solve those actions that may cause conflict. Can you give me some of them? Give me some of them. Give me some of them. When the shareholder does not make the agreed repayment. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Probably you have agreed to be solving, to be paying within a month. You have agreed to be paying within or at the end of the month, and you fail to do that. You fail to honor that agreement. That will cause conflict. It will cause conflict. Another point. So at any given point, if the shareholder acts in a way that reduces the market value of the bond, whatever that the bondholder owns, if the market value reduces, if at any given point they do something that reduces the market value, that will still cause the conflict. Abrupt increase of abnormal interest. Yes, that is now from the from the other side. If the interest is increased, but I've ever seen of that. More so the insurances now wanafanya kazi kama hiyo. They increase the interest and then they tell you that they increase the number of what? The number of days for repayment. That is not good. That is not good. It will bring conflict. It will bring conflict. So we say that conflict between the two will arise when the shareholder conflict between the two will arise. Conflict between the two will arise when the shareholders take action that will reduce the market value. Take action when the shareholder take action that will reduce the market value, value of the bond. So at any given point, if the shareholder takes the following action include akifanya hii maneno, the conflict will arise. Number one, action number one, disposal of assets used as collateral. Imagine, hata kama ni wewe, disposal of assets used as collateral. Yani unauza ile asset inatumika kama security. But you need to collateral for the debt. When you sell that will lead to conflict. So hizi vitu unaangaliaga tu the probable actions. Asset or investment substitution. Asset stroke investment substitutions. And then number 3, payment of high dividend. Payment of high dividend. Oh, when you pay high dividend, you are reducing your what? Your earning. Under investment. Under investment. Under investment. You're investing where you cannot get enough return. Borrowing more debt capital. Borrowing more debt capital. Ni kama this is like debt capital. This is like marriage, by the way. Ni kama marriage tu. Unaweka hizi vitu for practical things, then unaweza elewa haraka. It's like marriage. If you have married a beautiful wife for men. Once you marry a beautiful wife, now stop seeing other ladies who are younger than your wife. You stop seeing them. Now you close your eyes up to that point. Until the death separates both of you. But sasa inakuwa shida. Ni kama tu hii kampuni. Kuna deni, unaenda kuboro ingine huku. So it will bring they pry their eyes. Unaenda kuboro na bado hujamaliza ingine. So hii ndio inaleta shida. So hata kwa marriage mashida mingi zinatoka juu ya these actions. Mashida mingi zinatoka juu ya hizi actions. And then for the ladies as well, if you are married, when you are marrying that man, you married that man the way he was. So kama pesa imepungua as you move along, tafadhali stop looking for another person maybe to lend you money or to give you money. You pia italeta what? Conflict. So trying to balance. So in this case, borrowing more debts will also bring more conflict. So let's see the solution to the agency problem. Solution to the agency problem. Agency problem. Solution to the agency problem. So a solution to this, class, we have number 1, restrictive bond. Restrictive bond covenant. Okay. Restrictive bond covenant. No payment of dividend from retained earning. No payment of dividend. No payment of dividend. No payment of dividend from retained earning. From retained what? Earning. From retained earning. No payment of dividend from retained earning. And then the next one, Maintenance of a given level of liquidity. Maintenance of a given level of liquidity. Maintenance ni ya tatu. Maintenance of a given level of liquidity. Maintenance of a given level of liquidity. Then restriction of mergers and organization. Restriction of mergers and reorganization. Restriction of mergers and reorganization. Then we have no borrowing of additional debt. No borrowing of additional debt. No borrowing of additional debt before servicing the current one. Before servicing the current one. Yeah, no borrowing. Transfer of assets. Transfer of assets. Next is representation. Hao watu wamekopesha wanaweza tuma a representative. Anaangalia the unaenda namna gani. Representation. Representation. Refuse to lend. Refuse to lend. Refuse to lend. Nakataa kuwapatia. And that is it. Class, I think we can look at the next one, the third one, which is the government. Government and the company. Government and the company. The third one. Government and the company. Government and the company. Government and the company. So just so at this point we say that the government is the principal and the company is the agent. So see that a company may do the following, which will bring conflict. The following action, which will bring conflict. Company may do the following action, which may bring the conflict. The first action is tax evasion. Tax evasion, yeah. Mtasukumana. Tax evasion, hiyo mtasukumana. Involvement in illegal business by the firm. Involvement in illegal business by the firm. Involvement in illegal business by the firm. That will bring conflict. That will bring conflict. Then lukewarm response to social responsibility. Lukewarm response to social responsibility. CSR, social responsibilities. That will also bring the conflict. Avoiding certain types of types and areas of investment coveted by the government. So I think this is one way. Sijui sasa government overtaxation as sijui kama ukiandika hiyo hiyo nayo overtaxation, si kampuni pia itakasirika. So that still will bring conflict. Will bring conflict. So solution to this. Let me add some ink. Solution. So can you give me some solution here, class? I know you have them. And really give me solutions. Then the probable solution that we may have as I add some ink here. Solution kidogo zenye tunaweza kuwa tax compliance. Yes, yeah, exactly. Tax compliance. Always operate within the law. Operate within the law. And then ukitaka biashara yako iperform vizuri, najua mko na mabiashara. Only that sijui bona hampati watu attachment following the government regulation. Yes. Attachment. Kama uko na biashara, patiana free attachment. Free attachment. Patia wanafunzi attachment kidogo. Hapo ndio utapata future employees when at least they know your goal, they know what you are up to. Future employees. Future employees. So those points are valid. Ethical business practice, yes. Ethical business practice, yes, to avoid hii mambo na illegal what? Illegal. Yani hizi vitu ukishaelewa what is happening, my friend. Theory. Na unajua kwa tunasema for theory just go with your point. And then we try to relate with the question. Hatuna ile specific at the answer is 30 answer. Hatuna hiyo. Incur monitoring cost. So solution. Incur monitoring cost. Sasa kama zile ma-e-teams. Kuna hizo ma-e-teams hizo. Zinasaidia sana. Lobbying for directorship. Lobbying. Wanaleta representative. Lobbying for representatives. Haya. Offering investment incentives. Offering investment incentives. Registration. Sense and spirit of social responsibility. Sense and spirit of social responsibility. Social responsibilities. Yes, those are some of the things that so the other one class is that of the auditor and the company or the shareholder, auditor and the company or the shareholder. For this one and the rest, I want you to go and try to look at some of the concepts, conflict, and then how they are solved. So we say that auditors are supposed to monitor the performance of the management on behalf of the company. The performance of the management on behalf of the company. In some instances, they may fail to apply the professional care and due diligence. They may fail to apply the professional care and due diligence in their performance. And therefore, that will bring conflict. That will bring conflict. Once they fail to apply the professional care and due diligence, that will bring conflict between them and the shareholder. Therefore, those conflicts need to be solved. How do you think? I know we have some auditors here. Kunao pale. How do we solve that problem between the auditor and the shareholder? Can you give me several as we now move to the next part? In fact, we are going now to topic number 2 after that. How do we solve those problems of auditor and the shareholder? Tasolve aje. Rotation contract, right? Rotation. Make sure that you give them a rotation contract. Legal action, disciplinary action done by the ISPAC. Suspension, you can suspend them. Withdraw practicing license. Fines and penalty. Reprimand, and use of audit committee and reviews. Use of audit committee and review. So class, for the rest, kindly go and look at them. And then go and look at them and see how the conflicts are solved and the concepts like that. That mark the end of that topic. Let's look at the next topic 2. Topic 2, which is the financing decision. The financing what? Financing decision. The financing decision. So class, as the name suggests, as the manager, you need to come up with a solid decision when it comes to financing. Not all lending institutions that are best for your company. Not all lending institutions that are best for your company. There are things that we consider: the interest rate, the period of repayment, security, and many other factors that we consider before we go for that finance. We say that a firm or organization cannot perform or cannot operate by equity alone. They cannot operate by equity alone. They need equity and also debt. For a firm to perform well, they need the two, the equity and debt. So we can say that raising of more debts will involve fixed interest. Raising of more debts will involve fixed interest liability. And dependence upon outsider. Upon outsiders. Point one. Point number two, it will help in increasing return on equity. It will help in increasing return on equity. This is lower return on equity, but will also enhance risk. But will also enhance risk. Will also enhance risk. The raising of funds through equity. The raising of funds through equity. The raising of funds through equity. The raising of funds through equity will bring permanent funds. Will bring permanent funds. Will bring permanent funds to the business. The business, remember tulisema hii ni permanent fund, because the owner, the shareholder, will bring permanent funds to the business, but the shareholders will expect higher rates of earning. So pesa ni zao, but shareholders will require higher rates of earning. Yes, ni permanent fund, lakini they will require higher rate of earning. If the capital structure is able to minimize the risk. Next point, if the capital structure is able to minimize the risk, if the capital structure is able to minimize the risk and maximize profit, and maximize profit, and maximize profit, and maximize profit, then the market price of the shares, and maximize profit, then the market price of the share, then the market price of the share of the share, then the market price of the share will go up, maximizing the wealth of shareholder. Will go up, maximizing the wealth of shareholder. The wealth of shareholders. The wealth of shareholders will go up, maximizing the wealth of shareholders. So class, we have two sources of fund by a firm. Sources of funds by a firm. Sources of fund by a firm. So what was the time? 27. So sources of fund by a firm. So sources of fund by a firm. One, internal sources. Internal sources. And two, external sources. External sources. So class, you will find a question. You will find a question asking for factors to consider when selecting source of fund. To consider when selecting source of fund. Plus, can you give me some factors? Kindly give me some factors. Consider. These are simple questions that you'll get. Factors to consider when selecting source of fund. One. Give me one. Point number one. What should I consider? The cost. Yes. The interest. Interest or cost. Cost of that fund. Number two. Another one. I know those points that you have in your hand. Those are the points. Hizo ndizo points tunataka. Another point. Sema cost. Next one. Time of payment. Yes. Period of repayment. Period of repayment. We are doing great. Another point. Another point. Another point. So amount required. Amount required. Unataka pesa ngapi? Amount required. Size of the business. So availability of security. Availability of security. Of security. Availability of security. Availability of securities. Ownership and size of the business. Ownership and size of business. Point number 4. Cost of finance. You may say. Cost of finance. Number 5. The company gearing level. Madeni imefika wapi? Company gearing level. Kuna vile kampuni inaweza kuwa na madeni hata lending institution iseme hakuna haja. When are you going to recover? When are you going to recover? So company gearing level is also a factor to consider. Another factor to consider, class, we have the purpose. The purpose of purpose. Time period. Time period. Then sales stability. Sales stability. And many others. So just to mention a few, those are some of the points. Then we'll have long-term sources of finance. Let's look at long-term sources of finance. Long-term sources of finance. Long-term sources of finance. So for the long-term sources of finance, these are funds that are needed over a longer period. These are funds that are needed over a longer period. For a longer period, generally more than 10 years. Generally more than 10 years. More than 10 years. Long-term finance may be classified into 3. Long-term finance may be classified into 3. Into 3. Number 1, equity finance. Equity finance. Number 2, venture capital. You have ever heard of a venture capitalist. Number 3, debt financing. Hapo utaletewa you differentiate between this and this. You differentiate between debt financing and equity financing. So class, have 2 minutes to just breathe. 2 minutes. Then we elaborate on each. We shall elaborate on each. When you talk of equity finance, you're talking over the ordinary share. Okay, I think we can proceed. So let's look at each one of them. One of them, we can start with the equity finance. Equity finance. Equity finance, we say that that can also mean ordinary share capital. Ordinary share capital, equity finance, ordinary share capital, ordinary share capital. So it is raised by selling shares to the public. It is raised by selling shares to the public. It is raised by selling shares to the public. Ordinary share capital carry a return. 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 That is the ordinary dividend. Ordinary dividend. Ordinary share capital carry a return. It carry voting rights. It carry voting rights. Those are some of the characteristics of ordinary share. Can influence the company decision-making process at the AGM. Can influence ordinary shareholders, can influence the company decision-making. The company decision-making. Company decision-making. Decision-making. Can influence the company decision-making process at the AGM. Process at the AGM. Can influence the company decision-making process at the AGM. These shares carry the highest risk in the company. Carry the highest risk. The highest risk in the company. These shares carry the highest risk in the company. So let's look at the reasons why ordinary share capital is attractive. Ordinary share capital is attractive despite being risky. Yeah, it's attractive despite being risky. Why ordinary share capital is attractive despite being risky. Number one, shares are used as security for loans. Shares are used as security for loans. Shares are used as security for loans. Its value grows. Another point, its value grows. Its value grows to make it attractive. Its value grows. Number three, they are transferable at capital gain. The shares are transferable at capital gain. They are transferable at capital gain. Shares you can transfer. They are transferable at capital gain. Next one, they influence the company decision. Another point, they influence the company decision. They carry variable return. They carry variable returns. They carry variable returns. Perpetual investment. Perpetual investments. Investments to forever. Such shares are used as guarantees for credibility. Such shares are used as guarantee for credibility. Such shares are used as guarantee for credibility. Those are some of the reasons why examiner anaweza kuuliza bona share capitals ziko attractive na they have high risk. Then class, I would like you to go and look at advantages. Go and look at advantages. Advantages of using ordinary share capital in financing. Of using ordinary share capital in financing. So this is number one. Now we go to number two, which is venture capital. Venture capital. Hapo unaacha ni kama 6-10. Let's look at venture capital. Let's look at venture capital. It is a form of investing into new small enterprises. Investment. It is a form of investment. Investing in small into new small enterprise or enterprises required to get them started. Required to get them started. Required to get them started by specialists called venture capitalists. By specialists called venture capitalists. Venture capitalists. So the person who take care of, who carry out that processes are known as venture capitalists by specialists called venture capitalists. Example of venture capitalists are example of venture capitalists are pension funds, rich individuals, and insurance company. And insurance company. companies and insurance companies and insurance company. Attribute of venture capital, qualities of venture capital. Attributes of venture capital. First, we have 3. Equity participation. Number 2, business development. Number 3, management buyout. Management buyout. Management buyout. Then we have types of venture capital. That capitalists might invest might invest in business startup. Number 2, business development. Number 3, management. No. What? Oh, business. So, attribute of venture capital class. Kindly correct here. Attribute. Attributes, we have long-term investment. Long-term investment. Participation in management. Participation. Participation in management. Yeah, that's the correct one. Then business startup, business development, and management buyout. They buy and substitute. Good. Now, class, we can look at reasons. Reasons. For significant growth. Significant. Reason for significant growth. Reason for significant growth. Reason for significant growth in venture capital in developed country. Reason for significant growth in venture capital. Reasons for significant growth. Reasons for significant growth in venture capital. In venture capital. In venture capital in developed country. In venture capital. In venture capital. Reasons for significant growth in venture capital. Venture capital in developed country. In developed countries. What has led to the growth of this venture capital in those developed countries. Why has it grown so much? So public attitude. One, public attitude. Infrastructure dynamic or dynamic financial system. Dynamic financial system. Dynamic financial system. We also have government support. Government support. Government support leads to the growth establishment of venture capital institution. Establishment of venture capital institutions. Venture capital institutions. Institutions. Growth in number of management buyouts. Growth in number of management buyout, which has created demand for equity finance. Which has created demand for equity finance. Which has created demand for equity finance, which has created demand for equity finance. So, class, I would like you to do a look at the constraints of venture capital in Kenya or in your country. Constraints of equity finance, venture capital, not equity. Constraints of venture capital in your country. Constraints of venture capital in your country. You can have several points there. You can have several points there. What are some of the constraints of venture capital? What is limiting the venture capital? So class, when we meet next, we shall look at debt. And then we look at the difference between debt finance and equity finance. And then we call it a topic. We shall look at leases. Then we look at topic number 3. Then we look at topic number 3. Then we look at topic number 3. So class, the other remaining topic, apart from topic 3, we covered personal finance. So I'm saying, Jennifer, the other remaining, you have personal finance. That is just a practical, it can take 30 minutes. We have Islamic finance and contemporary issue. Contemporary issue. Those 3, one lesson is enough. The 3 hizo ziko tu fupi, one lesson. So once you are through with topic 1, 2, 3, the other 3, personal finance, contemporary issue, and Islamic finance, one lesson will be enough for us to finish. And then we continue with the revision. So what to endelee kusoma, as now we are actually in the month of exam. August is tomorrow. August is starting tomorrow. That is the month of exam. So by next week Wednesday tutakuwa tumemaliza. Next week Wednesday, in fact itakuwa revision sana. Taanza revision. So that is it. Let's wind our session on that point, unless there's a question. Unless there is a question. Unless there's a question, I want us to end at that point. Otherwise, asanteni sana for having time to attend our today lesson. May you all have a blessed day. Goodbye.